Hey there. Today is Saturday. Got something in my eye. That's okay. It's Saturday, August the 23rd, 2025. I am John Anthony Francis Wilcox. I hope you're doing well. So let's start with today before I get into anything, and there's much to get into. Thank you to my dear friend Joyce. The package came today. So thank you so very much. Very lovely of you. Let me talk a little bit about today, what's been going on. So, my sister in law's mom died recently, and they're having the funeral today. So, my nephew Michael, who lives with me, that's his grandmother on that side. So, he's over at the funeral, and I'm here with Tinkerbell, who is relaxing. She's a relaxed cat. Um, Sitting on the, what do you call that? The ottoman that has an old knit blankie kind of thing on it, crocheted blankie, I should say, that was from a church and given to my mom a few years before she died. So, anyway, it'll always be there. Beyond that, I've done some writing today. I just edited a bunch of photos from two different conventions I was at back in 2017 and 2019 because they popped into my head. They were called Lock City Con. I don't know that they do those anymore. And the first one that I went to in 2017 was just one of the best conventions I've ever been to because it had something that I was totally enthralled by. It had a maid cafe where you had women cosplaying as different maids in this cafe, and they made all kinds of little sweets and treats, and they sang songs and did karaoke, and they encouraged others to do karaoke. And I went around the convention, and there were some great cosplays and some really nice people. But once I was there at the maid cafe, I really didn't want to leave it because it was just a good time. Everyone treated you like you were a piece of gold, and it was a beautiful time, very distinct. I've never gone to one again, and I would love more than anything to go to another maid cafe. I hope they still have them. I'll have to talk to a few friends about that. So I did that, and what else did I do? Well, I'm obviously doing this. I know I did something else. Can't be of significance. And I've been listening to a bunch of Korean TV. There you go. So that's it. And right now, what time is it? It's a little after quarter after 3 as I am recording this. So let me go backwards first to a prop. I did my 6 songs about this the other day, and I talked about it, I believe, last week. This is Appetizers. It's a 2 record set that I'm not going to take out of this lovely sleeve because it's a real pain in the butt to get it back in it. It's a double album sampler, as I mentioned last time, that I just got a new copy of, even though I don't have a record player, because that's how I roll, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted it for the memory of it. And back then it was $2 to get this double album set. You clipped out a little coupon, mailed it in, said what you wanted, and this arrived several weeks later. But this I got actually for only $2.50, so it went up, but not much. It's a kind of a beat up copy, but who cares? I'm not playing it. I'm not worried about its audiophile Um, so that was lovely, and I read it, and it had notes inside, and it's just a beautiful thing, and it made me smile. So, but not as much as the wonderful thing that Joyce did, which was she sent me 6 jars of Silvio's pasta sauce. And I have to say, the reason she sent it, is because it's just so good. She sent me a jar of it once, along with a package I had around one Christmas a few years ago, and I loved it, and Michael loved it, and he's very fussy. He only really likes Victoria's sauce, and that, which is even better. Silvio's sauce is the best sauce I've had that I didn't make or my mom and dad didn't make. Nothing else has been up to the bar. Just saying. So this is not a paid ad. This is honest. I'm just being honest with you. If you can get it, get it. You know, I mean, if you're making your own sauce, you're making your own sauce. But if you want a good jarred sauce, I give it my highest recommendation. When I told Michael during the week that Joyce was going to do this, his eyes lit up like a little kid. And they did again today when he was like taking them out. He was like looking at them. Oh boy. So thank you again, my dear. You've always been a wonderful friend, and it has nothing to do with doing stuff like that. You're just a wonderful person to have in my life. So let's talk about cooking. On Monday, I believe it was, I made once again tofu with this time sliced baby portobello mushrooms and Japanese noodles and soy, and with mine I had some peanut sauce as well. Michael doesn't have the peanut sauce, he just has it the other way. I made exactly enough for us each to have what we wanted. There were no leftovers. That was Monday. So Thursday, I had there's a place, because I am, as you know, on the broke. There's a place called Person to Person in Norwalk, and once a month they bring me some provisions, which is very generous of them. And so it took me over an hour to cut up some hot Italian sausages. I also had a couple of leftover knockwurst, cheddarwurst things, so I cut those up. Apples, some big white onions. Are they white onions? I suppose they're yellow onions, aren't they? You're just your regular ass onion. So apples, onions, potatoes, carrots. They also gave a couple of big monster sweet potatoes, and I diced those all up. And then I put garlic salt, parsley flakes, and dried basil flakes. And also a whole can of peas, including the liquid from it. Covered that up, had Michael put it in the oven at 300, and it cooked there for 3.5 hours. And when it was done, it was beautiful. I still have a bunch left, and I'll be having over the next couple of days. So I did that. It went in the oven at just before like 1:45, and I took it out at 3:30, something like that, somewhere around there. So it did that, and it was delicious. And that evening, I made rotelli with butter, eggs, peas, salt and pepper, and grated cheese. And that was fabulous, and we both finished that. In fact, today I finished off the leftovers of that, which was awesome. So a lot of cooking, a lot of again, it took me over an hour just to cut all those things. But to be honest with you, I found that very relaxing. I loved sitting there. I sat on my chair in the living room, and Michael put the tray table, my big lasagna pan, about that deep, very big. It's like coated black with white fleck, like ceramic coating on a steel or aluminum, whatever it is. I think it's steel, unless it's aluminum, but I think it's steel. But to cut that off, and I didn't even know that the sweet potatoes were in there. So I was going through the big bag, and I'm like, "What's this? Oh, sweet potatoes." And I diced them up fine, and they're the one thing that almost melted, because I know my friend Joyce has asked me, how do you do that and everything just doesn't turn to mush? Well, the apples, of course, are going to get soft. The carrots had a lovely texture. The potatoes were fine. The peas were very pea-like, you know. The hot Italian sausage, I cut each sausage link into 3 pieces and each kielbasa into 4 pieces. And they both rendered their love into all the vegetables. And time and heat and patience and leaving it alone. And I got the greatest compliment from someone I don't even know. Someone from, I think, Australia. I put up a photo of it on my DeviantArt. Said that they would travel half a continent or a continent to have a bowl of that. And I said, well, come on by. And you know what? To be honest with you, if they came by, I'd give them a bowl. I'd do that for pretty much anyone. If someone that I didn't even know, if they were in the area and they saw that and they said, hey, you got any more of that? If I did, I have never refused people food. Why would you do that? If I've got a bunch of food, you're welcome to it. If I'm cooking, I don't ever just like, it's rare outside of things, where like Michael and I make exactly enough, or he makes exactly enough for the two of us. But the things where I make like a pot of sauce or something like that, God, I hope you come over. Always welcome. So, what else is going on this week? I've been thinking a lot about the things that form your life. And I was thinking about WNEW FM 102.7 that I listened to extensively from the mid 70s to the early 80s. And everyone from Vinnie Scelsa, Allison Steele, Scott Muni, even later Meg Griffin, although she wouldn't play a song I asked for, and she was kind of snotty about it, but what do you want? Dennis Elsis, and I apologize for the Pete Fornatel. Pete Fornatel, thank you. And the other DJs and the different slots, because you never knew when I was up or out or whatever. But they introduced me to so much stuff. I think that's where I first heard Nectar. Pretty sure it's where I first heard Renaissance. I know it's where I first heard Genesis. And I remember they had just had A Trick of the Tail come out, which was the first album without Peter Gabriel. And so I had called up Allison Steele, the Nightbird, who always called me honey or babe in the many times I talked to her on the phone. And I asked her to play me a Genesis song from the Gabriel days. I didn't care what it was. And it was the first song I ever heard from The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's a song called The Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging. And that's how I heard them. Is that where I first heard Kate Bush? No, it's not where I first heard Kate Bush. I don't remember where it was, but it wasn't there. Although I would later hear Kate Bush played extensively on there, and that was a beautiful thing. And many other bands. It's funny, at the time, the popular album radio station was WPLJ, and they used to have a great commercial where the background music was First Impression Part 1 of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Carnival 9. And it was very powerful, and it was like very grabbing you. And that was fine, but they were the station more likely to play the mainstream, where NEW, particularly at that time, almost never, unless there was something new and fantastic, played any given song more than once in a 24-hour period. And they were proud of that, And so you got to hear a great variety of things and some homegrown stuff. I remember Vinnie Scelsa at Christmas time playing some, I can't think of what they were called. It'll come to me probably after I do this. But there was this song called Merry Christmas from Brooklyn. And I remember the line, Ravioli Joe is making pasta for the holidays. Crazy Johnny's putting all of his machines away. So Merry Christmas from Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn, hello. And it had like a, I think it had like a xylophone, so like a ding 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 ding. But with Vinnie Scelso, what was great is it was whatever was on his mind. So you'd hear like a deep rock and roll from whatever, or folk or whatever, Phoebe Snow or Simon Garfunkel, whatever, and then you'd hear like Barnacle Bill the Sailor and a short piece of classical music, just because he could. Impossible to find that nowadays. Impossible. So God bless them. Big influence on my life. You know, I suppose beyond that, my folks obviously, Johnny Carson, because I used to sneak and watch him all the time, and I got in trouble with school once with the principal who was like, "Why are you late, Mr. Wilcox?" I said, "I was watching Johnny Carson." And you know what? I learned more from Johnny Carson than I ever did from that principal. And I probably might have mentioned that before, but who cares? I don't think I mentioned it while wearing this hat and looking at this Lucky Super Soft body cream, which, by the way, is super soft. I don't know if it's Lucky. I mean, it's a brand, but they had to name it that for a reason. Beyond that, I am craving, oddly enough, either condensed or evaporated milk in a nice hot cup of coffee. And I don't think I have either, but when I have a chance, I will check. Because the chances are that if I have it, it's probably expired and should just go to begin with. That's going to do it for today. I love you all. I thank you for taking the time to watch this probably overlong rant. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends.